If social services makes a recommendation to the county attorney's office that a person needs a guardianship or a conservatorship, then my job as a county attorney is to review that to make sure that it meets all the legal criteria for a guardianship or conservatorship. There might be a case where I feel it doesn't necessarily meet the burden of proof that we have to have before the court, and if that's the case, then I will either refer it back to social services for more investigation, or I will decline to file the petition but ask if there are other alternatives available to help support the vulnerable adult. We often will do a petition for guardianship or conservatorship when we feel that the vulnerable adult is not able to make any decisions on their own behalf, and there's no one else who is able to step in and make those decisions for them. The word of one family member that a person is maybe becoming forgetful is probably not enough to file a guardianship or a conservatorship petition. We really require medical evidence that a person has a deficit or an incapacity. First, social services will look at whether there are other alternatives, less restrictive alternatives than doing a guardianship or a conservatorship. So we'll look to see if somebody has been appointed as a power of attorney, whether there's a health care directive, or whether there are other family members who are willing to step in and help the vulnerable adult or the elderly person with what they need help with. If those things are in place, then we often don't need to file a guardianship or a conservatorship. Even if there's a power of attorney in place, sometimes that person who's appointed as power of attorney doesn't wish to continue in that capacity. Maybe they don't have the ability to continue in that capacity, or maybe they've done something to exploit or harm the vulnerable adult. In that case, we might step in and try to get a professional guardian or conservator in place for the vulnerable adult so that somebody is there to make those decisions for them. If we have a case where we feel that the person who's been appointed as the attorney in fact under a power of attorney, or perhaps as the health care directive appointee, if they've not been doing their job, or if they've perhaps been exploiting the vulnerable adult or the protected person, we would step in and try to appoint a guardian or conservator who would, generally speaking, immediately revoke the power of attorney or the healthcare directive. We don't want someone who's been using their authority under a power of attorney or a healthcare directive to continue to exploit or take advantage of the vulnerable adult. When appointing a guardian or conservator, the factors that we look at are really who is best capable of taking care of the proposed ward. Often that is a family member, but it's not uncommon to appoint a close friend, somebody who has maybe stepped in and been helpful to the person all along.